We are live. Hey, everyone. We're live on all our Little Nessie channels, social media channels, and mine and Ron's personal LinkedIn channel. So wherever you're joining us from, welcome, welcome, welcome. Ron and I go live every week, and Ron, as you can see, is not in his usual spot. He has a home studio that we built out together, and he's not in it. I won't tell you where he is, though. But welcome. We are live. We are going live on Friday. We typically go live on Thursdays, but every now and again, our schedules get in the way, and obviously that's true for this week. So we're going to chat for about an hour, and we've got some topics. Ron's internet is a little bit shoddy. We'll see. He might bug out, and if so, he's told McKenna that she needs to come on camera and lead the rest of the way. So we'll see how that works. If he does bug out, then we may just end the show. We may keep going. We'll see. When you're live, you never know what's going to happen. But again, thanks for joining us. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go there. McKenna, if you want to pull the handles up again, head to our YouTube channel, subscribe, follow, and we appreciate it. This week, I'm wearing one of our t-shirts that is live on our website, littlenessie.com/store. This one is a play off the explicit lyrics logo that you'll see on albums. It used to be on vinyl, then it used to be CDs, and now it's just on the album artwork when you log into Spotify or wherever you're logging in from. But it says Home Loan Advisor at your service. If you scan the QR code, it'll send you to this one that I'm wearing. It's in black, but there's also on the main page, littlenessie.com/store. There's also a white version along with probably 15 other t-shirts if you're a loan officer that I think would be helpful. I was actually the last company I worked at, Homeowners Financial Group. I was wearing one of our t-shirts in Lowe's. I was at the paint section. It just said, we called it the gym tee because it just looked like a design that you would wear to the gym. Almost like an old high school sports type design. I was getting some paint at Lowe's one time, and he was like, oh, home ownership, or he saw the words on there, and it just struck up an entire conversation. He started asking about mortgage rates and what are good companies, what are bad companies. So t-shirts like this actually strike up conversations. So head to our store and check them out and get yourself one. Ron, how are you, sir? We didn't cheers yet today, so we usually start with the cheers, end with the cheers, since it's called happy hour. So cheers to you, sir.
Cheers. Cheers.
Yeah. How's your week?
Busy, David. Busy. Thank you for asking. It's going great. It's going really good.
Good. All right. Well, we've got 3 main topics. We've got 4 rapid fire topics. Our main topics are usually about 8 minutes each. Our rapid fire are usually about 3 to 4 minutes each. But we're going to kick it off with a From the Gut, which is a monologue from me where I talk for anywhere between 6 to... They've been getting longer and longer lately. I think last week's was almost 12 minutes. So I've intentionally tried to, in my notes, shorten this week's down a little bit. So we're going to kick it off with that. So the From the Gut, we're talking about, what am I talking about again? That's right. I just saw a video. I think it was literally 2 days ago that just made me laugh. And all the topics that I usually choose for my From the Gut series are what I've been watching online, what I've seen, a lot of it from social media, a lot of it from news headlines. This is one that I saw a video just 2 days ago on Instagram with you think it's about sunglasses, and it kind of is, but the company that put them out is not a sunglass company, but genius marketing campaign that I saw that I've got a lesson tied into it. So that'll be my From the Gut. And then Ron, lead the way on these main topics that we're going to talk about.
And David, I'm rooting for your From the Gut to go about 55 minutes. So, really lean into it. And then full disclosure, I am working off of very limited technology, so I have no show prep in front of me, which means you're just going to get whatever I can remember about these topics. I love the first topic, though, David. It's about the Fed's intervention into the long-term interest rates as it came to the aid of the market, which includes the housing market. And you may not have known this, so I really enjoyed this topic.
And then
This is a very interesting topic about kill the dream home. It's how people don't want to be sold a dream home. They want to be sold something differently now. Consumer behavior and demands are changing. So I think that'll be a very interesting topic. Yeah, and then we're gonna touch on some new data from Mike Simonson from Compass, chief economist at Compass, about the impact of open houses, when to have them, how it impacts the sales price and the velocity of sales. And then we're going to touch on Ken DeLeon's kind of prescription to how to do an open house. Of course, Ken is the #1 purchase real estate agent in the United States, and so we'll have some best practices there. And with that, David, we'll talk about how we'll talk about how a loan officer can come alongside of a real estate agent to optimize the open house experience. So that's what that topic's about.
Oh, I just saw a post that is relevant to that. I'll talk about it later. But I have a feeling that Ron, that since you don't have any show notes in front of you, McKenna might drop down the Ron's rant a few times during this episode. So get ready and brace yourself. All right, but without further ado, let's get into this week's From the Gut. All right. So, told you that I just saw on Instagram, I think it was just 2 days ago, but one of the best tech marketing campaigns I've seen in years from a company that built a product with absolutely zero technology in it. So DuckDuckGo, a privacy-focused search engine and browser company, partnered with a company called Knockaround. Knockaround is a sunglasses company, and they partnered together to release what they called the world's most innovative anti-surveillance sunglasses. No camera, no microphone, no AI or Bluetooth, no electronics of any kind. Their value prop, they block out the sun. That's it. And the campaign is hilarious because it presents all those missing features as though they're technological breakthroughs. They never need charging. They don't upload anything to the cloud. They don't send notifications. And they offer, this will make you laugh. I've got a video in a second to show you, but this one will specifically make you laugh. But they offer panoramic viewing experience that you activate by physically turning your head. And apparently people connected with the joke because the limited edition sunglasses, they sold out. What was it last week? Did I talk about Sophie Cunningham last week or the week before, and her shoes sold out? What is it with me talking about sold out merchandise and apparel? But what I loved about the campaign isn't simply that it's funny, and you'll see it here in a second. It's that the joke communicates DuckDuckGo's entire value proposition without forcing people to sit through a lecture about privacy. This 60-second video, I pulled it off their Instagram page. Let's take a look at that real quick.
DuckDuckGo is introducing the world's most innovative anti-surveillance smart glasses, also known as normal sunglasses. We're obsessed with innovation. So when big tech started putting cameras in smart glasses, we asked ourselves a radical question. What if we just didn't do that? These are the first smart glasses guaranteed to never record nude videos of you and send them to random people. I never thought I'd have to guarantee that, but here we are. These innovative sunglasses come equipped with a 360-degree panoramic lens. All you have to do is turn around in a circle and see things. In a circle. Did I mention? These sunglasses also block the sun and make you look good as hell. Get some normal sunglasses from DuckDuckGo.
Now, I know this might sound like I'm talking about a funny pair of sunglasses, but stay with me because this campaign gets at something I think a lot of businesses and people miss. So DuckDuckGo built its brand around the idea that people should be able to use the internet without every search, every click and movement being tracked or analyzed. So rather than explaining all the potential privacy problems surrounding smart glasses, they released a pair that can't spy on you because they can't do anything. And that the timing is brilliant. Technology companies are racing to build the next device that will live closer to us, understand more about us, and remain connected to us for longer periods of time. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, of course, partnered with legendary Apple designer Johnny Ive, who was with Apple for, gosh, I don't know, 20, 25, maybe closer to 30 years. He was the lead designer, chief design officer or something during the iPhone and way before that. But OpenAI and Johnny Ive teamed up to develop a new family of AI products. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, and Ive, they released a video together. This was, I think it was mid last year, but they were discussing the partnership while revealing almost nothing about the actual product. Excuse me. OpenAI has confirmed the collaboration, but many of the details surrounding the device remain unknown. And that lack of information has led to all kinds of speculation. Maybe it's a pen, maybe it's a wearable, maybe it's a device that sits nearby, constantly listening, interpreting, anticipating what you need. And to be clear, at this point, this is all just speculation. We don't know exactly what it is yet. It could be extraordinary. It could be something people after the fact can't imagine living without. I use AI every day. Ron uses it more than I do. So this isn't an argument that artificial intelligence is bad. But I also understand why some people hear about a device that's always present and listening and analyzing and think, do I really need that or want that? Because while some companies are investing billions of dollars to create more advanced technology, other companies are finding customers by offering less of it. Minimalist phones are becoming a real category. Some remove social media. Some eliminate the web browser and the app store. Some are designed mainly just for phone calls and text messages and a handful of just basic tools. The newly announced Light Flip phone, I think it's the 3rd generation or something like that, they deliberately exclude social media and web browsing and AI features. The entire idea is that you open the phone when you need it and you close it when you're finished. Marques Brownlee, a massive, one of my favorite YouTube tech influencers, otherwise known as MKBHD, he did a long form video just a few days ago where his whole team talked about it. Now, Marques, he didn't talk favorably on it, but that's not the point. He was talking on it on one of the best, if not the best, tech influencer on YouTube. So think about that contradiction. We have some of the smartest engineers and designers in the world trying to invent the next generation of computing. And at the same time, people are spending hundreds of dollars on phones that intentionally do less. That tells you something. Technology may be advancing faster than ever, but that doesn't automatically mean people want more of it in every corner of their lives. And some of the recent stories surrounding smart glasses help explain the concern. An investigation into Meta's AI glasses reported that contractors reviewing data had encountered extremely private footage, including bathroom visits and nudity and even sexual activity. Meta's glasses don't simply record everything continuously, but certain recordings and AI interactions may be processed and reviewed as part of improving the systems. There's also been recent controversies involving people using smart glasses to record strangers without their knowledge. And privacy advocates are increasingly asking whether the small recording light on these devices gives people enough warning without meaningful consent. And right in the middle of that conversation, DuckDuckGo releases these sunglasses whose biggest feature is that they leave everyone alone. Now that's great marketing, not because they invented a revolutionary product, but because they understood what people were beginning to feel. A lot of businesses ask themselves what the next trend is. How do we add AI? How do we automate more? How do we say the same thing everyone's saying, only louder? But sometimes the better question is, what are our customers tired of? We've seen this in the mortgage industry. When rates began rising sharply in 2022, loan officers and real estate agents started repeating the same phrase. And you've all heard it before: date the rate, marry the house. The idea was that the house was the long-term commitment, but the interest rate was temporary. Buy the house now, then refinance when rates fall. It sounded clever. It fit perfectly on a graphic or on a flyer, a social media post, and almost everyone jumped on it. The problem is that, and again, you all know this, is that rates didn't fall. Even NAR later questioned whether the industry should retire it a while ago. Some buyers who were told they would probably refinance fairly soon are still waiting. And I have to imagine that a lot of them are frustrated and potentially mad at their loan officer. Because there's a big difference between explaining that refinancing may become an option and building someone's financial decision around the assumption that it will. That's the danger of repeating a trend without stopping to ask whether it's actually true or responsible or useful to the person listening. So what does that mean? What does that mean for a loan officer or real estate agent who's creating social media content? First, pay attention to what your customers are tired of. Maybe they're tired of predictions. Maybe they're tired of manufactured urgency. Maybe they're tired of hearing that now is always the best time to buy. There's tremendous value in being the person who acknowledges what everyone else is pretending not to notice. Second, show people what you believe instead of simply announcing it. DuckDuckGo didn't post a graphic saying, "We care about privacy." They turned that belief into an idea people could immediately understand and laugh at. A loan officer who believes in simplicity can take a confusing mortgage concept and explain it without hiding behind industry language and jargon. A real estate agent who opposes pressure tactics can create content explaining when a buyer should maybe walk away from a house. And finally, don't become contrarian simply for attention. DuckDuckGo earned the right to make this joke because privacy has always been central to its brand. The opposite opinion only works when it's genuinely yours, and great marketing isn't always about being the first person to embrace what comes next. Sometimes it's about being the first person willing to notice that your customers may have had enough. And sometimes the smartest thing you can offer is less. That's my From the Gut, Ron.
As always, spectacular, David. Let me ask you, have you ever hung out with somebody that wears smart glasses?
McKenna's boyfriend, Andrew. He doesn't wear them consistently and constantly, though.
It totally changes the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because you have somebody capturing every minute, every moment, and it completely changes the environment. It's so interesting. And I can understand. I was in Mexico a few months ago, and one of the people I was with was wearing smart glasses because they used it as an interpretation thing, like it could get constant, interpretation, and then it could, it would prompt it out to speak in Spanish. But it was also capturing everything that was happening, which completely kind of overshadowed the experience. It was really interesting.
Yeah, he's only worn them while I've been around him, we went to Busch Gardens, so he wore it for a couple rides, and he wore it for different things like that. But they are sunglasses, so he wouldn't wear them inside. However, I can imagine I would probably feel a little bit comfortable. As easy as it is to be canceled these days, how many of us say stupid things, especially after you've had a few drinks? There's probably not a day goes by that that anyone doesn't say something a little silly or off-putting or whatever. And if you clip just one thing someone says out of the day with no context, you probably are walking around on eggshells and just feel that nervousness around those people. So yeah, it's an interesting place to be.
Yeah, it's a very interesting world. And think about it, because you're in a group and it's somebody that you don't even really know well.
Mhm.
You can't even trust them or know them. It's amazing how things are so quickly changing, David.
I'll get you to watch Black Mirror one of these days. There's an episode. It's such a good show. Every episode is a standalone, but there's one where it looks like it's set in current day. Like there's no flying cars, the houses look the same, and that kind of thing. But it's set in the future, and they don't have smart glasses, but they've got a chip in their brain that tracks everything they see. And it's a whole hour long ish. Episode, and it's absolutely brilliant in showing the dangers, not only physical but psychological and all of that stuff. It's a brilliant episode. McKenna, what's it called? You don't need to bring yourself on camera. What's that episode called? Don't know.
I don't
Any,
remember.
look it up real quick, and just chime in whenever you find it. But there's a brilliant episode, and yeah, because you don't know, well, or you assume that everyone is watching and recording, which it is, and brilliant episode, and it shows you, yeah, exactly where the world could go if this technology continues to exist, which it will.
The entire history of you.
That's right. Good title. The Entire History of You. One of my favorite Black Mirror episodes. Anywho, as usual, I went way over. I thought that was going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but hey, let's move on. Let's talk about what are we talking about? The Fed. Topic number 1. Take it away, Ron.
Yeah, so David, we're about a third of the way through the show, so we will pick up the pace, which is perfect. I love this topic. And here's what's happened. Let's go to the first slide, McKenna. A very interesting thing happened this last week, and it has to do with the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen has been under enormous pressure. And as the valuation of a currency drops, governments are compelled to defend against it. The way they defend against it is they start buying the currency to shore it up. You don't want your currency to be completely devalued. And Japan has had a really hard time defending the valuation of their yen. And as it got desperate to try to draw a floor to it, their only option is to start selling U.S. Treasuries, because if you're a foreign country and you have to buy your currency, you have to buy it with something. Japan happens to be the number one holder of U.S. Treasuries. They have about $1.3 trillion of Treasuries. And the natural thing would then be start selling Treasuries and start buying yen. That's what would have benefited their country. Of course, if the largest holder of U.S. Treasuries would have started selling a ton of Treasuries into what's already an oversupplied market, it would have really driven up costs a lot. It would have moved the market a ton this week. Even psychologically, it would move the market up. And so the United States engineered a way for Japan not to sell a ton of Treasuries. First, by actually, the United States got into the market and bought bushelfuls of yen to try to create a floor for it, because they didn't want Japan to start selling U.S. Treasuries wholesale into a weak market. And then they created a facility where Japan could collateralize their U.S. Treasuries and borrow against it without selling them, which is another form, of intervention. And so that between the window that allowed them to collateralize their treasuries and then the U.S. actually coming to support the yen, the United States was able to forestall Japan selling a ton of treasuries, which would have affected the long end of the curve, and put differently, would have put a ton of pressure on on longer bound interest rates, including home loans. We could have seen interest rates bump a half a point this week, but the Fed came to our defense. And the interesting thing here, David, is that a lot of people in our industry have the view that the Fed has hung us out to dry. Like it's protecting the short end of the curve in order to minimize borrowing costs from the U.S. government. It doesn't really care about the long end. But that's obviously was proved completely false this week because they committed tons of resources to protect the long end of the curve, which just means, just know if you're in our business, you're not completely unprotected. You still have a benevolent, Fed. It's just a very complicated environment right now, and they can't do everything. But when it really mattered, they threw everything at it to try to fix it. Dave, does that make sense to you?
It does, but the more that I continually learn about financial markets, the more you realize how many moving pieces exist behind what just seems like a simple rate quote. My question is, how do loan officers educate borrowers on what's driving rates without overwhelming them? Because it's such a convoluted, complicated thing to wrap your mind around.
I think the biggest thing here is just to argue the sentiment that the federal government doesn't care about, mortgage rates. And they obviously do. It's just in a very complex environment. But when it really matters, the Fed has stepped up to try to protect future home buyers. And that's the thing I would convey, David. I want to try to explain all the nuance and complexity of what goes into an interest rate. I would just say I would defend the narrative that nobody cares and going, no, if the federal government 100% cares, they just have limited tools, but when it matters, they're going to protect, the U.S. home buyers, homeowners, interest rate, which is what they did this week, and so that's more of like a mind space. Like you're not alone. The government is trying to protect you. It's just a very complicated problem.
Yeah. Your brother's been missing for 2 weeks now, but looks like he's back. He asked, why did China buy in as well?
Yeah. Well, Mike, that's a really good question. And China, I think, was doing just, opportunistic buying low. And they also need U.S. dollars to help manipulate their own currency. So getting more U.S. dollars gives China more power. And so they're picking it up cheap. It's as simple as that.
Was this our first slide or second? Did we make it through them?
We have one more slide, which is just talks about the volume. And here's the interesting. The next slide is on its own. When Japan has intervened in trying to, stabilize the yen repeatedly, and it's failed. Maybe this time with the U.S. support, they can finally build a floor below the yen. Because if not, this is going to be an ongoing problem. And if it's an ongoing problem, the United States will 100% police, 100% try to take care of. And so with this, what Richter has pointed out on this slide is maybe with U.S. intervention, they can build a floor because Japan on its own hasn't been able to do that.
Gotcha. You want to try and catch up on time a little bit and move on to our next topic?
100%. And David, I'm not going to touch on this, but this, of course, also relates to the carry trade, which also affects the U.S. interest rates. We won't get into it, but the carry trade, which we'll talk about in future shows, David, has a lot of influence on what happens in the stock market and the bond market. It all has to do with the value of the yen, and we'll get to that another time.
I'm not familiar with the carry trade. Should I be?
The carry trade, David, is when you can borrow money in Japan on yen at like 0.25%, and then create arbitrage by deploying that money in a different currency at, say, 3.5%. So let's say I go borrow a ton of money in Japan at 0.25% interest rate, and then I buy U.S. Treasuries at 3.25%, and I leverage it 9x. I'm making a killing. It's just like it's just a killing. But then let's say the yen, the interest rate of the yen starts to increase, which means the value of my holdings with that carry trade drops. And so I'm forced to sell all the assets I have in that carry trade, which is normally U.S. bonds. When the carry trade fails, there's a massive flood of supply onto the marketplace. And that also the carry trade's been unwinding, meaning that international entities have had to sell their holdings to cover the yen having a higher yield, and that really affects market. But that's another topic. I just wanted to point out it'd almost be negligent to talk about supporting the yen and not talking about the carry trade.
I think I realized about 30 seconds after asking you that question that I tuned you out, not not deliberately, but because I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about or saying. My apologies.
Yeah, no worries. It would, like I said, it would be negligent not to mention the second factor with that. And so, not for the topic on this show, but I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Let's move on. The Fed cares about, nope, sorry, kill the dream home. I was doing research earlier. I was on, I think it was realtor.com. I saw the most expensive house ever in Orange County just went up for sale in Laguna Beach at if I think this is right, 112 million. So speaking of dream homes.
Wow. Yeah. You know what, David, this comes from John Burns. And what he said is consumers never want to be sold, don't want to be sold. This is your dream home. This is your perfect home. They don't care. And they're offended by that marketing. And this is a wonderful piece by John Burns. And it was, it's a good 10 pages long. And it's this study. It says what they want is they want to know that if you're saying new construction, that you understand them and you're going to build to their needs, which is family, security, lifestyle, quality of home, not a lot of cost of repairs. Like sell that, not dream home. Don't sell the 5,000 square foot home, all the weird amenities. Just go. And so, this, David, you also appreciate this as a marketing person. Don't show me perfect pictures. Show me a chaotic kitchen at dinner time with 4 kids and there's mess everywhere and it's totally chaos. Show me that. How do I manage that? Not the perfect home. That's where it says, show me how I will live in it, not how you want to project, the fantasy to be. And it's funny because consumers are being now turned off by this fantasy dream home and they want reality. And builders are having to change the whole marketing approach in order to attract those home buyers.
Yeah, we were talking about just yesterday your ideal dream home and what that looks like, and it definitely looks different for each person. I think I'm right now living in my realistic dream home. Now, if I were a billionaire, I'd probably be buying that $119 million house in Laguna Beach, but I'll stay grounded for now. Maybe one day, you never know, when Little Nessie actually launches that new product that we've been working on forever, maybe I'll buy that $119 million house. But in a realistic world, I live in my dream home right now. It's not too big. Kelly and I were empty nesters, but now we're not. But it's for me, I could live in this house for the rest of my life unless I get it is a 2-story, so unless my faculties can't keep up with it and I can't go up and down stairs anymore. But McKenna, any thoughts? You're the one that picked that image, and that was your ideal dream home. So I'm not really talking about the true topic. I'm pivoting towards more just talking about dream homes versus what the topic's actually about. But
Yeah, whenever I was picking the images and I was reading through the topic, I was like, I have no idea how to convey this or what it's trying to say in an image. And so I was like, screw it, I'm just putting my dream home and maybe they'll let me keep it. It's not quite my dream home, but I would love just like a little cottage in the woods, have some ducks and some dogs. Just far away from noise, but still close enough that I don't have to drive 30 minutes to go to a grocery store. That would be perfect.
what about
You
you,
want
Ron?
the experience of having a deeply rural experience, but you want a Costco nearby.
Exactly.
Yeah. David, let's go to our first visual because it will kind of
Yeah.
frame the argument a little better. And so in this visual, it says, gosh, green is fresh and relevant. Red is overused and tired. And, this brown is unsure. So the first thing is crafted for connection, fresh and relevant. That's what home buyers want to hear today. And then inspired by you, once again, overwhelmingly fresh and relevant. Now, getting to curated lifestyles, moderately appealing. You get to dream homes, it's overused and tired. Quit telling me. Or you want to talk about luxury living? I'm tired of hearing that. Don't tell me. That's not who I am. That's going to repel me as a buyer. And so it's just interesting how that's changing. And if we would have had a time horizon on these things, you would have seen how they shift over time. It's completely switched or gone polar opposite of what it would have been, back in 2020.
I've watched there's a guy, I think he was actually one of my topics for the From the Gut, a British guy who reacts to American pop culture, real estate, just anything about America. And I've watched a handful of his videos where he's watching a real estate agent walk through a house and given just a house tour on video. And there's one guy specifically that I've seen, but this is true for a lot of those type of videos. The amount of adjectives that are used is tiresome when every part of a house look just as stunning or gorgeous. This oversized island, this magnificent back door, this absolutely stunning back porch, this beautiful fireplace. It's a little bit overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. And not possibly attainable. And it would be hard to manage even if you owned it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So interesting.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, let's go ahead and move on.
All right. The AI job losses never came.
I thought the next one was, maybe I just skipped one. David, are you sure? I thought the next one was the open house. It is open houses. Phew. You're just trying to trick me.
It is.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened with the timer there.
All right. So Mike Simonson from Compass came out with a really interesting study of the impact of holding open houses. And what his study said is that if you have an open house the first week that the house is listed, it's more likely to close in 30 days. It's 17% more likely to close in the first 30 days or to get under contract to close. And so the strategy is hold an open house the first week. The other data was that houses that are aggressively marketed with an open house on the first week they're on the market typically sell for 2 to 4% more than houses that aren't marketed the same way. And so his point is open houses have a really relevant and important role in selling a home, but that role starts to fade as it gets into more time. And he furthermore goes in to argue, don't hold an open house every week. It starts to devalue the house. Do a huge bliss the first week, and then maybe wait a couple weeks, and then kind of be really strategic on when you hold future open houses because you don't want to signal desperation. And I thought that was really interesting. It's the first data we've seen of that type, and so we kind of maybe we'll put a link to that study. It was very interesting. But I wanted to juxtapose that to Ken DeLeon, who's the #1 buyer's agent in America, and he has this really strong open house strategy. And if you haven't heard him speak, maybe listen to him on Mortgage Coach. Dave Savage has had Ken on twice in the last, I think, 10 months. In the first episode, he talks in depth about his open house strategy. And remember, he's the #1 buyer's agent in the country, and a lot of that is linked to his open house strategy. He has other incredible strategies, and his whole open house launch strategy is blow in, blow up, and blow out, right? And so the first thing is that he spends a high proportion of his commission, his future commission, to market the house, right? And then once he markets the house and gets unbelievable foot traffic, he then has a huge presentation at the open house. He has catered food, he has like bands, he has unbelievable thing, he has tons of data, he has it completely orchestrated. And then following the open house, he has, of course, an ironclad follow-up strategy. And so what all that means is that he sells almost all of his open houses, his inventory in the first week or two. They go to market, and understand, I think his average price listing is around $10 million. It's not a small amount, but that he has an extraordinary amount of success. And it's so fun listening to Ken because, one, he's very pragmatic and he's willing to share everything and he has a ton of energy and he's very approachable. And yet he's, some years he's the number 1, 2, or 3 real estate overall in America. He's always the number 1 buyer side. Last year he did $950 million in total volume, and that's with a very small team. And if you listen to him, all the things he pays attention to, all the value propositions, he's clearly separated himself from all other competitors, and open house is one way to do it. And so I thought that was a great topic, David, just to say, and here's the thing, I did LinkedIn post on this, and I said, look, we might all choose to do the same activity, but the degree in which we master it matters a lot. Like, do you do an open house like Ken DeLeon, or do you do an open house like I put a sign in the front yard and I get some cookies from Costco and I wish for the best? The degree of your skill and the way that you're able to execute 100% correlates to your results. And if you're not getting the results you want, it might be you have to upskill. And so expose yourself to things like Ken's open house strategies, or read Mike Simonson's data on open houses.
I saw a post yesterday. It was for an event where the guest speaker is a loan officer for a company I used to work for, and he's pretty good. He's a President's Club. I don't think he's $100 million producer, but he's a President's Club producer. And I saw the event is him speaking, and he's the specific topic is how I transitioned away from visiting open houses. I'm not chasing realtors anymore. They're chasing me. What are your thoughts on a loan officer who's kind of stuck in that grind? Because I think that's what, at least new loan officers, or even not new, a lot of loan officers are still stuck in that grind, showing up with the box of donuts and all that kind of stuff. But what's your thoughts on that transition from going to where you're chasing it to where real estate agents are then chasing you?
Yeah, it's a really, thank you, David, for bringing this up. Here's the first thing. I understand that today loan officers are challenged because they don't have access to real estate agents. Real estate agents now work at home versus working in an office. It's very hard to approach them, David. They don't want to take appointments. You're not going to bump into their office. They're not going to broker caravans. And so you have to figure out how to go meet them where they are. And so I understand why you might do a bunch of open houses, because at least you get exposure to real estate agents, right? And then, David, yes, if you become so valuable that agents come to you instead of you having to go to them as a loan officer, that's, of course, the perfect scenario. But very few loan officers can figure out how to create that value that attracts the agents that come to them. How I would, though, turn this, David, is that what I would advocate as it relates to open houses, become somebody that can be a multiplier in driving the results from an open house. So align yourself with a real estate agent that has a open house strategy like Ken DeLeon, and say, look, I'll amplify your strategy. And so where you're getting 2x or 3x results, when we partner together, we get 7x or 8x results. And in my LinkedIn post earlier this week, I pointed out the 6 ways that a loan officer might be able to align themselves with a real estate agent that has a great open house strategy, how together they can amplify the results. And I think that's more the approach I would take, as it related to open houses and real estate agents.
Is Ken DeLeon, he's California, right?
Yeah, Simi Valley.
Where?
Simi Valley.
Never heard of it, I don't think.
It's up near San Francisco,
Okay.
in the tech belt. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's his average amount per transaction? You said he's done 10 million, whatever. Do you know what the average is?
No, his average purchase price is like 10 million. His total average price is somewhere between 6 and 8 million. It's not insignificant.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's super crazy. Sometimes when you have people that do that kind of loan purchase price or loan amounts, I very much more pay attention to units than I do dollars. It's just like a loan officer. If your average loan amount is $2 million and you did $50 million last year, well, you did 25 transactions. If you were in Des Moines, Iowa, and you did 600 transactions in order to get, $100 million, which do you respect more?
Yeah.
So you got to kind of pay attention to both.
This might be a dumb question, and it's not really related specifically to this topic. Just a random thought that I just had. Who would make more commission? Typically speaking, would it be on the same purchase price, a $1 million home? Would it be a loan officer who averages what, 100 basis points, 110 basis points, a retail loan officer, versus a real estate agent who might make 2%? They split the six on, on average, they split the six, 3 and 3, and then the brokerage takes one or something like that. Who's making more money if they close the same amount of production?
Yeah, the short answer is a real estate agent. But David, if we look at the numbers, on average, real estate agents earn about 2.67% commission. From
Okay.
that, they split roughly 10% to the broker. So let's
Okay.
say then that they're earning somewhere around 2.4% commissions. They then have their expenses, marketing expenses
Right.
and whatnot, which let's say that's a quarter point. So they're netting around 2.1%, 2%, commission. A loan officer, depending on what platform they are, it doesn't really matter what platform they are because it all comes to the same. Let's say if they earn 200 basis points and they have to deduct all their expenses, but they earn 100 basis points, their expenses above the line. So let's say a loan officer is going to earn about 1%, maybe minus expenses of 0.9%. And the loan officer gets paid on the loan amount, which is less than the purchase price. The real estate agent gets paid on the purchase price. So let's just say the real estate agent gets paid, for easy math, 2% on a purchase price, and a loan officer nets out 0.9% on the loan amount, which is going to be at least 20% less than the purchase price. And on a high-end property, it's more like probably half the purchase price. So a loan officer earns far less than a real estate agent.
Interesting, because the barrier of entry to be a loan officer is much higher, but I don't know what the typical argument is. How many hours does a real estate agent have to put in to sell, on average, to sell one house versus the amount of hours that a loan officer has to put in? Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting, David. And the loan officer has a longer gestation period, so they might be working with a
Mm.
potential home buyer for a year, where a real
Yeah,
estate agent typically doesn't incubate that lead as long. They're interested in leads that close in 30 days.
yeah.
And but it's very interesting. I would suspect, the work's about equal, of just anecdotally, but it's an interesting argument.
Yeah. Ready to move on?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, we got a comment. Michael, we'd be curious to know who spends more time in today's world on a transaction, the lender of the realtor. Yeah, I think we just answered that. So, but
Yeah, and Mike, that'd be interesting because you're on the front lines. I would guess it's about the same. I mean, the real estate agent gets intensely involved in the last mile, the 30 days, where, like I said, the loan officer has much longer path. It'd be interesting to study. As a matter of fact, I'll start seeing if I can't find a study on that, or else commission one of my own.
yeah. All right, rapid fire. Is this right, McKenna? The AI job losses that never came. There we go. We got it right
Yeah,
that time.
and David, I'll just be really quick. Here's the thing: and this is part of that whole vibe session that I fight against all the time. Doomsday headlines that are totally false, that scare the heck out of potential home buyers, and it creates a paralysis that they don't know what to do, and they're in total fear, and they're sure that the economy is going to hell, even though it's one of the best economies in history, and that wealth is going down the toilet, even though people are wealthier than ever, and that AI is going to replace their jobs, and they're not going to have any employment, and all these doomsday things. And so when AI started becoming kind of prevalent, the headlines were AI is going to replace everybody's job. 90% of people are going to be unemployed in 5 years, and blah blah blah. Well, recent studies have proven that completely false. In fact, AI is driving job creation, not job losses. And that's important to understand because, as you have to, as David, I've said a lot of times, if you're a loan officer or a real estate agent, what you really are is a Sherpa in helping a potential home buyer make the best decisions for them and their family, and of course for their long and short-term financial goals. And to do that, you have to pierce through all this emotion and noise. And this is one of the large, loudest pieces of noise that you're going to lose your job to AI. When what studies are clearly showing today is that no, AI is driving employment. Now, does that mean there's not going to be some dislocation in some jobs that AI replaces, sooner than others? Yes, of course. And then, David, there's a couple other really interesting studies. The other thing we heard about AI is if it doesn't replace my job, it's going to help make sure that I only work 10 hours a week, because what I can do today with these AI tools, I can do in a fraction of time tomorrow. But what the studies are showing is that people that are AI proficient actually work more than those that aren't, because they're so productive. Their employers are giving them more and more tasks to complete. And so they're overwhelmed with that, where they used to have, say, 10 units of work to do a week, they now have 30 because they're more capable of handling it, and it's stressing them out. And just like everybody that's listening here, the advent of having text messages and internet, we went from being available, a reasonable amount of time to being available 24/7, where people that are AI connected also feel the need to be available 24/7 to do one more prompt with their AI engine, one more thing, one more task. And so they're finding themselves working far longer, far harder than before they had AI. So the second myth that's been debunked is that the first one is AI is going to replace you, and the second one is AI is going to make you have less work. Those are totally debunked. And then the third interesting thing that's come from recent studies, David, is that this is really crazy. Professions that are really proficient in AI, they actually have a lower rate of wage increases than those that aren't. So if you are a master of AI in your company and you are this ultra productive person, strangely enough, your pay raises are stunted. It's not that you're earning less, but your pay raises are stunted because your employer is going, it's really not you, it's the AI. And so they're not giving you as big as raises as I was going to say dirt clods, but that would be inappropriate. Then the people that do not embrace AI are less productive. For some reason, they're getting bigger raises. But those are the three data points that we're learning about AI, which completely debunk the myths. And being able to debunk the myths is really important to help be a Sherpa, leading people to home ownership. What's your thoughts there, David?
I think it's a pretty assumptive article, because I think it's too early to draw to any kind of conclusion. Because sure, studies and data, but for crying out loud, people only started using ChatGPT 2 years ago. And now look, from when I first, it was Leonard Cullup, I believe, at Homeowners Financial Group. He texted me or emailed me, messaged me one night. He was like, "Hey, go to this new website, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and ask it for a mortgage joke." And I did, and my jaw hit the floor at it just being able to tell me a mortgage joke. Look at the strides that have happened in just 2 years or so, 18 months. 2 years, no, more than 2 years. Crying out loud, time flies. So I think it's a little bit assumptive, and I think it's too early to actually start writing the AI job loss that never came.
Yeah, David, I agree. I think over the longer term horizon, AI is going to take a lot of jobs. So I'm not arguing that. But what I am arguing is that the doomsday headlines from 2 years ago have not been realized yet. And
Yeah.
those headlines had a negative effect on, the, our society's home buyers' psyche. And that's what I'm arguing.
Yeah.
And even that the fear that this isn't decided is 100% true, but there's, Jarvin's paradox: the cheaper something gets, the more people use of it, and the more it drives actually consumption. And so who's to say? We don't know, but the fact is we don't know. Where we were certain 2 years ago was, the end of employment.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk and many others have been saying that what's the phrase? Universal global income, high universal global income. What, I forget the exact phrase terminology.
Universal basic income and universal high income. And that's going to be a
Right.
thing, because when machines do all the work and you don't have to work, then, where does your livelihood come from? And
Right. So yeah,
that's
yeah. If that actually comes to fruition, then who cares if you lose your job? Is I mean, if you've got something that motivates you to get out of bed every day. Now, if your whole livelihood is revolved around your job, which is kind of me right now, um, but if your whole livelihood or your humanity is about your job and you lose it, then sure. But if you lose your job, but hey, there's universal high income, then that's okay with me because I've got plenty of passions outside of work that I'd love to spend more time on.
Yeah, David, we could do an hour on this topic, and I love this topic. And it's so interesting because it's very territorial, meaning Americans, their ethic is Americans gain their identity through their work. Not so much with other countries, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
as is evidence in other countries, some of the countries that have the most time off might allow 20 weeks off a year because for those countries, their culture is, work supports life. Where in the United States is work is life. Work gives me purpose. It gives me identity. And what the analysts think is that when the machines really do replace labor, that Americans will have the hardest time with it since their identity is so wrapped up in their work. For example, David, and I read this wonderful study, and if you ask an American, what do you do? They're immediately going to talk about their work. They're like, well, I am a school teacher, I'm a loan officer, I'm a whatever. In other countries, if you go, what do you do? They go, well, I really enjoy reading and hiking. Their identity is completely different. And so that would be an amazing topic for another time and it would be a really good happy hour topic. Matter of fact, maybe
Yeah.
next time we're out drinking beers, Dave, we can chat about this.
There you go. Your brother responded. He said, "Dave, you keep saying what I'm thinking so early." So we're like this, Mike. So anyway, we're a bit behind. Do you want to skip any of the next ones, Ron, or just plow through them?
Let me see, David. Once again, I have very little technology here. You know what? I'm looking at it. We have buyers. You know what? Let's just go really quick. Like David, let's keep it to like 2 minutes, okay? Let's go
All right.
in order. So the next topic, this is really simple. And this was really interesting. The president of Tri Point Home said, essentially, look, buyers aren't priced out of the market. If you actually look at it, in new construction, we've cut prices by 22%. We have all these incentives. We're buying down interest rates. We price right to the marketplace. Studies show that it's not that it's unaffordable. It's that this potential home buyers are scared to death, or they don't have confidence in being able to buy. That's what's causing them to sell the market. It's not that dissimilar to what we just talked about, David. And it was really interesting. And so in the I think it was a Resi Club, if I remember, in the Resi Club article, they had a bunch of data that said, he's probably right. They probably priced it correctly, and just people are uncertain. They're not buying until they get confidence. It won't matter how houses are priced. And so that was the whole point of this topic. Do you feel that way? Do you kind of sense that?
Yeah, nothing there I could disagree with.
Yeah. So that was that topic. Let's go to the next topic. See, this is rapid fire. Now we're moving rapid.
Rapid fire. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, we have to honor McKenna's video here. McKenna, you're getting so skilled. Last week you had a live timer. You got videos going on. You're multitasking. But the topic here is the message or MOAT, and this came. I think we have one image on this. It came from a Torsten Slok, who is really becoming one of the most respected economists in the United States, and of course he's who I follow the most. But the argument was, look, the way you become valuable, the way you have job, security, is that you deal with the messy. You deal with the mess, because AI can't deal with the mess. They can't deal with complex, messy, uncertain things. So if your job is dealing with the mess is your moat. And he has all these data on it. And we can, of course, provide a link to his original study on this. And it was to a white paper. And I remember the white paper was from some academic university. But it was I think it was Harvard. It was, look, if you have a job where it's super hard, super complex, super messy, they can't.
Uh-oh. McKenna, did you
Uh-oh.
lose Ron as
David,
well?
in your experience,
There
is
we
there
go.
anything messier than doing a mortgage?
We lost you there for a second. You asked me, is there anything messier than doing a mortgage? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know something more messy than a
I mean,
mortgage, other than if you're a
we're
psychologist.
working on a farm cleaning up horse shit, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's messy, like in dirty, but not messy as in complicated. Like there's
No,
so many moves.
you know what I would not. Well, no, you probably could automate this. My mom's got some health issues going on, so I've been to the doctor's office, ER, hospital more times than I can count in the last 10 months or so. You know what when I envision messy, I think of the back office of a hospital, the admin, the scheduler, the person that has to deal with both the patients and the insurance companies. I see that as being pretty messy. Not as messy as the mortgage industry. However, it does seem like AI and automation could solve a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think of it differently because you're thinking of the operations or processing of the product, where I think of the delivery of the product. And I used before, I think if you're a psychiatrist or a psychologist and you're dealing with somebody with scrambled eggs, I mean, how do you figure out what's wrong, right? Or
Yeah.
even like a veterinarian where you get a patient, a dog or a cat, and they can't speak to you, so you have no idea what's happening, and you have to guess what's going on. That would be really messy, right? And in mortgages where we have 200 inputs, and you have to pay attention to every one of them, and it becomes an art. That's very messy in my thought, and then you have to deal with the whole mindset and the psychology and the psyche of the home buyer or the home seller. And then you have every one of the players having their own motive, whether a real estate agent who needs a commission. It gets super messy. And the thing is, I would just encourage our audience, the messier it is, the bigger your moat. And David, by the way, last night, David, I was in Rome. I went to dinner at a castle, and we had to go over a moat to get to the castle. And I knew we were talking about messy. The moat is messy. I'm like, Belinda, this is a castle, and we're going over a moat. Like, this is what a moat actually looks like because it's so overused in today's world. I'm like, we're going over a moat. This is the greatest thing ever. Anyway, sorry, total tangent.
I hate you. We'll move on. I've got one last thought there, but it reminds me of what we talked about on the first rapid fire topic where we're talking about the AI job losses never come, and you talked about how the people that are really good with AI in the corporate world are not being paid as much as others in promotions and that kind of stuff, which seems contradictory to what you would think. However, it's because exactly of this is because AI right now at least can't deal with the messy. It can't deal with the human fact of all of the interactions and problems and issues and problem solving that goes on in a corporate world right now.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. All right, David, let's go to Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart, let's get some brownies.
Yeah, let's do like a minute here. So Martha Stewart has partnered with a company, Hint, to roll out Martha Stewart's AI for the home. And it is a comprehensive AI platform that helps people manage their home ownership, from home decorations to managing their mortgage to capturing all their product stuff information and managing their insurance. Is super comprehensive. And why does that matter? Well, being relevant after the close of escrow is what we're all aspiring to do. And so this platform she's partnered in to help build is very detailed. It is very functional and it's valuable. And so this one more entity going. And by the way, it garnered a $10 million VC investment when it first came to market, like immediately. And because everybody's trying to figure out how to get the eyeballs of the homeowner, who is our client, by the way. Homeowner is my client, right? I help them get in the home, but the battle for their attention is so fierce, whether it's from servicing or now companies like Martha Stewart's. This shows you just how complicated a road is. and hopefully inspires us all to just understand how to put a fence around our clients by providing unbelievable value, but not unbelievable value as we define it, as they define it, and as they experience it. So that's why that topic's on the board, David.
You know what this made me just think of? I have been a bit of a tech nerd for a long time. And I literally used to go to, this is probably 15 years ago, but I used to go to a website called appleinsider.com. I think that's right. Literally every day, several times a day, following the rumors, what's the next product launch and all of that kind of stuff. And there is, and I'm still somewhat like that to this day. I love technology. And Apple has an event coming up, their typical event they have in September, where they announce a new iPhone and a handful of other things. There's a device that's been rumored for a long time now, and most people are thinking they're going to call it a HomePod. Think of it as a, if you know the little speaker that Apple sells, it's just this big and it's just a speaker. It's just got mesh around the whole thing with a small screen on top that really is not useful for anything. But there's a new device that's been rumored for years now, and it looks like they might bring it out this September. If not, it looks like it'll come out next year. But it's called the HomePod, and it's I'm not going to say her name, but you know the Amazon lady. I'll say Alex. Okay, she didn't respond. Good. Alex, and just add an A onto it. You know that lady. It's going to be one of those things, but I see that as being a genius example of how to automate everything in your home. Not even more so than turning lights on, turning lights off, and that kind of thing, but reminding you of when you should replace your air filters and scheduling a tree removal and doing all of that stuff that's all related to your home. I like where technology is going with this, and I've got a halfway kind of smart house right now, but I could see going all the way in on this one.
Yeah, David, I agree. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to give you my comments because I'd love to talk about this for 20 minutes, but those are excellent points. So let's, you want to wrap it up with our tech tip? Even that could have been a tech tip, but
Tech tip of the week, McKenna, roll that bumper. We didn't get a bumper. We got the music.
We got the hook. McKenna's like, get out. All right, so just really quickly, and I think we have one. Let's go to the other visual really quickly. What this tech tip is, and maybe we'll give you a link to it. Really simple. You can actually get anybody's contact if you use really specific prompt engineering. It has to do with vibe prospecting, say in this example, the CLAUDE. There are specific steps that if you, and it has to do with using the skills in CLAUDE, that you can get it to give you like FBI level, research on any person, their home address, their telephone number, their everything that you want. If you follow this, prospect, this prescription, which is really cool in today's world, and this is what this whole article that we're featuring right here talked about. Companies have tens of thousands of dollars subscription every month to get this data, where you can actually engineer it through your basic AI tool if you just prompt it the right way. And so that's what this topic is, David.
Love it. I'm not going to add to that, Ron, because we're way over on time. But what I am going to do is, if you weren't on at the beginning of the call, see the T-shirt I'm wearing? Let me move my microphone away for a second. So there we go. So it says it's one of our T-shirts we have on our store, littlenessie.com/store. And I told this story at the beginning of the show, where at the last company I was at, if you know me, I'm all about creating cool swag, cool gear. Last company I was at, I was wearing one of our cool T-shirts at a Lowe's picking up paint, and it struck up a conversation with the guy behind the counter. He was like, home ownership. He started reading it, and he just started asking me about the mortgage industry and rates and that kind of thing. And this T-shirt, like I said, that you can see here, it's a rip off of the explicit lyrics icon logo that you'll see on music. and it says home loan advisor, here to serve, here to help, I think. So if it's a cool looking t-shirt that if you wear out in the wild, maybe it'll strike up some conversations. You can start talking with your paint guy at your local Lowe's about mortgages, about home ownership, about that kind of thing. So they're available on our website. That QR code will take you to the black version, but if you go to the just littlenessie.com/store, you'll see all of them, including a white version. So if you've joined us, we appreciate you. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do that now. But Ron, I hope you have a fabulous time. And you were at the Vatican yesterday or 2 days ago. How was that?
It was great. It was spectacular. It was great. A little warm, a lot of people, but it was really spectacular.
A little warm, a lot of people, Europe, no AC, smelly. That's what I think of. So,
David, 100%, dude. That is definitely one of the lingering, memories. It was very odoriferous.
All right, this was a good one. Cheers to you, McKenna. Ron?
Cheers. McKenna, come on. Well, good job, McKenna, showing up. You're under the weather and you still showed up, got on camera. We're the boss, kept telling us what to do. Good job.
Yeah.
McKenna was throwing up 20 minutes late.
McKenna was throwing up all morning. So kudos to her I didn't even ask her. I was like, before I even got to ask her, I was like, you going to be able to do the show today? Before I even asked, she was like, I think I can do it. Just don't bring me on camera and I'll have a bucket next to me. So, hey, if you've joined us, thanks for following. We go live every week, typically Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.